Hello and welcome back to Open Door. I'm Chris Telfer, Creative Director of Red Door Collaborative. And today I'm bringing someone from inside our house onto the show for the very first time. This person has been at Red Door for 4 years now, and she came in as a creative project manager and has grown into our present day associate creative director. She's a creative in her own right, has an event background, started as a designer, and is just a solid creative and a wonderful person. So, Najwa, welcome to Open Door.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here.
Of course.
Um, it's so funny because we're in so many meetings every single day,
I know.
collaborating,
Yes,
trying to find solutions, and we get to come into this room together. So I'm just really thankful for you being here.
of course.
All right. So here's the thing I want to jump into and talk about. But when Jenny and I started this agency, which is, gosh, 15 years ago, we were very intentional about the fact that we were building something that was very people first, people centric, right? And mainly because I had worked at a number of agencies, either in part and in whole, and there's a reputation, right? High turnover, hustle culture, burnout, churn associated with agencies. And I experienced and I saw it. And I learned a lot of what not to do. And we made a decision very early on that we were going to do this differently. And what does that look like? And today we're talking about what that actually looks like from the inside out, right? And so rather than just me talking about it, I thought it'd be so fun to have a dialogue and a discussion because you're very much a core part of that process and change into what Red Door has become today, right? And so with that said, when you came up early in the agency world prior to Red Door, right? What were some of the things that made you say, I think this isn't right? I'm not sure if this is the right model, but something in you just kind of had this core of this can be done differently.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I've been in the agency space for probably over 15 years, and it's a harsh world. It is incredibly harsh. But what I've learned is like, in terms of how I interact with the people and I care about them. I care about
Mm,
the teams and the people that I work with, the designers, the creatives. It's something that I genuinely enjoy, and something that I noticed in my past agency experience is like I saw people in the environment and the stress just failing them over and
mm,
over again. I was seeing them so much talent, so much creativity. They were incredibly hardworking, but, like, the system set them up to fail. They
mm,
just kept on trying, and they kept on struggling, and early on, it made me realize, like, we need people who care. We need leaders who care, and so I'm hoping, with, Red Door, I'm hoping that is shown through my work and shown through my
mm.
interaction and connection with the creative team.
Yeah, I love that. And I know you and I have spoken about this before, and you said this to me the other day, and it really hit me, right? And it was this element of someone has to care enough to actually build something different, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
there's an element of empathy, and as creatives, I think we you and I have spoken about this often, is not to just say that creatives are empathic or empathetic, but the fact that creatives tend to have more of that antenna wired, right? And
Yes.
so they want to feel connected, right? And so I know you've experienced a number of chaotic environments. I think examples help, and especially as people are watching this and they either might be in one of those environments themselves, or they might be in a position of building their own culture, or they might be in an area of recognizing and realizing they need change. Someone watching this to resonate with that. So I think stories matter and help. I'd love to know just what did that look like day to day in some of these past experiences, and what was the effect that you saw in the people around you?
So in my previous work, I used to project manage the creatives for a large conference. We're talking 10,000, 15,000 people.
Oh wow.
And with conferences like that, where there's books, brochures, signage, collateral, backdrops, all of the whole nine. And one of the situations that I saw was we were doing this, and the agency that I was working with assigned only one designer to the entire project, one
Wow.
person working on all those assets. within such a short, limited time because events are a complete chaos. They're just like things change, things move, things sizes change. And this person had to work till 4 to 5 a.m. every
Oh,
night
wow.
slash morning
Wow.
for weeks to get this delivered. And I'm trying to tell like my account manager, I'm telling the project manager on that side, I'm like, hey, we need more resourcing here. However, you know, based off whatever that agency had to do, they only assigned one. And it was just, I just watching them struggle and watching them have to figure out, like, plan their days.
Mm,
And it hurt because I was like, I couldn't fix it, but I knew why they were struggling. I
mm,
knew that if we could figure out, like, allocate proper resourcing for this type of project, it would have been much better and at least alleviate all that stress. And
mm,
so the system was broken. It wasn't them. They were doing great. They were amazing, but watching that, seeing that type of, I don't know, weight put on a
mm.
creative, I don't think anyone should be in that position. And then from a red door standpoint, like, I think that it's incredibly important that we allocate resources intentionally. I think it's incredibly important that we plan for people, plan for projects, make sure that we're deliberate in every single thing that we do,
Mm,
every single project. And when the work does get heavy, we plan and make sure that we're not stressing our creatives, and it doesn't have to necessarily feel like a grind. It's hard. I know it's hard, but, like, I think where I feel I make the most impact is having the ability to allocate and understand the creatives from that side, and
sure,
not stressing them out wherever
sure.
possible.
Yeah, yeah, no, totally. I One of the things I think you do really well is you give all the creatives a voice,
Mhm.
right? And I think that's the impetus of what we're talking about here is the culture side of things, right? We've developed a culture over time, it doesn't happen overnight, where people feel heard and
Yeah,
validated rather
yeah,
than suffering in silence, right? There's two different sufferings going on there. One, watching your peer, your professional peer suffer, and then you suffering knowing that there's nothing you can do about it.
mhm,
Right? Like, I can't change the culture and the overall leadership infrastructure from that perspective, and so I just have to watch this person suffer through this, right? And
mhm.
so from that perspective, from a leadership perspective, what do you think are the downsides of bad culture in an agency environment, and what does it cost the team and ultimately the business?
It costs a ton because everyone from becomes reactive. We're operating without clarity, and
Mm,
working within crisis mode doesn't
mm,
help anybody. That kind of stress um, is overwhelming, people make mistakes. People feel like they're not doing anything right. And I do think from a leadership perspective, that energy, bringing calmness in a crisis is incredibly important, and it flows directly to the team. I also think that when a creative is working on one thing and their fellow teammate is watching them suffer, I think it just brings morale down for everybody. I
mm,
think that, and when that happens and people can feel like the team is drowning or someone is drowning and no one is doing anything, I think
mm,
it does shake everyone up. It does make people feel like, "Hey, why isn't my friend over there not being taken care of? Would that happen to me?" And
mm.
so giving people a voice is incredibly important. Being able to, like, be in the corner of a creative is something I'm hard set in believing caring is not expensive and
Not overrated?
yeah, it's not overrated. Um, and so I think at the end of the day, the real cost is, like, the best people do leave.
Mm,
They have options. They
yeah.
they don't have to stay in an environment that grinds them down if they know something better exists. And so a huge part, I feel like, of my role is just making sure that, uh, they are heard, And sometimes, creatives don't say things out loud. They want to hold it in. There's a lot of introverts within the creative world, but sometimes it's just checking in, making sure that you see them and telling
Mhm.
them, "I see you and I value you," and that's important, at least in terms of, like, managing and I feel like especially when it comes, to Red Door and
Mm.
the team.
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And, our team specifically, we do a lot of work and obsession over bringing people into the Red Door culture, right?
Mhm,
A lot of recruiting efforts go into that. And the prospect of losing really great talent is detrimental to any agency, any company, especially if they're a high performer and that person can influence the culture. So I completely agree with you. And as a part of that, I think our job as leaders, especially my job as a leader, to be that North Star is to preserve the creative spirit, right? The things that kill creativity and negativity and competitiveness and fear, all of these things that bring down the creative spirit within a team. And creativity is amplified in collaboration. When the culture is broken internally, the external pressures are only going to make it worse and heap additional pressure on the shoulders of leaders. And so there are three concrete downsides of bad agency culture that I've seen that I've been a part of. And
mhm,
that's good talent leaves, right?
mhm.
Project quality drops across the board. And then it leaves a bad taste in the mouths of the client. So it's affecting your brand and your company
Yeah,
infrastructure, right?
for sure.
So maybe for making a quick buck, putting one designer working till midnight because that resource decision was probably rooted in the fact of not wanting to spend more money, is
Exactly.
that making a quick buck can really negatively impact the client work, but your brand and your business over time, right?
Mhm,
And people are intuitive. Clients can pick up on the tension in a room, and that whole element of a divided house fails sort of thing.
mhm,
And I was actually thinking about the series that I did with Jerome when we sat down with him, that intentionally or unintentionally, you're forming a culture
mhm,
every single day. People are watching you, they're taking note. And the question is whether that culture is harmful, if it's helping people from the inside out, or if it's leaving a lasting residue that other people are picking up on, not just the culture of your team, but your clients and potentially partners and other people within that ecosystem.
yeah, 100%. That totally agree. I've read recently there was a stat by Mentally Healthy Survey.
Mm.
They said that 70% of folks from the media, marketing, and creative field have burnout within the last 12 months
Oh,
compared to other industries at
mm.
53%. Like, it seems wild. 70% face burnout. There has to be a better way. So more than anything, I think this signals an importance of being building a supportive and collaborative culture, and I feel like we're doing that and trying to do that every day at Red Door.
Yeah, and you and I have talked about that stat. It's staggering to me because it's
Yes.
showing it's a symptom of a root problem, the core of it, right? And we've had a lot of creatives come in that I have what's called post-traumatic
I
occupational trauma,
know.
right?
Yes,
And
yes.
and so it takes a while to earn that trust and so on and so forth. But you being a great talent within the Red Door ecosystem, you've grown from a designer to an event management to a creative PM to now an ACD, associate creative
Yeah.
director, and we're doing things differently here, right?
Mhm.
And it can be scary. It can be difficult. It means we have to have difficult conversations, but ultimately that has led to a better overall environment. And so, one of the things I'd love to know is what does this look like to you? How do we build a culture and an agency that is modern, but also a safe place for creatives, right?
Yeah.
How do you, I'd love for you to articulate that a little bit, the
Yeah.
experience here and the things we're continually doing too.
I mean, first thing, like, I don't think we should we're a small agency, but I'm also realizing that we don't actually have to follow what these larger, huge creative agencies have done or have been doing. Who's to say that whatever they do works?
Hmm.
Maybe it doesn't work. And so one of the things I'm always thinking of is like creatives are not factory workers.
Mm.
This is not a life or death situation. I don't know. Maybe some of the creatives think it is, but
Yeah.
I truly believe that we need flexibility in our work. We need to give them time to think, time to actually be creative,
Mm,
and not having a constant stream of things landing on their desk and giving them the breathing space. I know,
mm.
um, when it comes to creatives, like, yeah, there's the Venn diagram of fast, speed, and fast, cheap, and
Oh,
quality.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. So I think we can't constantly feel like, oh, let's do this as quickly as possible and expect great work every
Mm,
single time.
mm,
And I think at the end of the day, we do have to acknowledge that some of these other agency models may be broken,
mm,
and from a Red Door perspective, choosing not to follow these broken kind of ways of and paths of doing it, that's I feel like the power that we have at Red Door is, what is the Red Door way? What should we be doing to
mm,
make things better and give an experience for our clients, for our creatives, for our culture, and making sure that, like, we constantly in the back of our minds, we're always thinking, how do we support? How do we
mm.
collaborate? How do we get out of the way so people own and do what they need to do to be creative, to
Sure,
develop these pieces?
sure, sure. And how do we show up for each other,
Yes,
right? And
exactly.
and I think too, like, as people are listening to this, we're not perfect by any means. We're not like, "Look at us, we're doing it the right way." I think what you're really getting to the heart of doing is this business as usual, this model, why do we have to follow that?
Yeah,
And if
exactly.
technology evolves and changes, if markets shift and change, then we need to be shifting and changing with that too. And I do think there's this element coming out of the pandemic, coming out of a lot of things recently within the 5 to 6 years. People
Mhm.
want real authentic things. They
Yeah.
want connection. They want to feel important, heard, seen, and validated. These are very simple things within an agency world that I think are often negated. You're needed and wanted on behalf of your talent, and that's it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you do a really great job of connecting with people, learning who they are, learning what their skill sets are. Just saying we need a designer isn't enough. It's like, well, what specifically and what kind of
Mhm.
designer and what is the nature of that work? You're really narrowly tailoring those specific strengths of the creatives with that specific project, right? And so with all of these things, what does making our own rules actually mean like in practice? I'd love to know how do you boil that down for someone that's listening?
I think acknowledging that, building a sustainable, safe environment, we need to, at the end of the day, figure out what's best
Mm,
for Red Door and truly think about, we're collaborating, we're working together, we're coming together and building something new, building and creating our own rules for this new type of model of an agency. How do we structure this so it makes sense for Red Door? I know creatives and the marketing space can be incredibly fast paced and everything
sure.
is go, go, go.
Sure. Yeah.
But at the same time, we can enjoy what we do. We can have fun. Like, we're on the fun side. Let's be honest. We are on the fun side. And
Mhm,
yes, it's not easy, but it's totally worth it. And truly, truly, I do wish, like, I always think about this. I'm like, I feel incredibly lucky to be at
mm,
Red Door because I do wish 10 years ago I had the same experience. Like, as a creative, just because, like, it was challenging, it was
mm,
hard,
mm,
and, I do hope that from the creative team, I hope they understand, like, we want and think that they deserve, like, an environment that is safe and
mm.
welcoming and collaborative.
No, I love that. And I think we learned a lot about that from Jerome's talk,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Um, Change is not easy. And I think there's a lot of change happening in the world right now. And especially in our space in which we conduct business, there's a lot of change, especially with AI, right? And internal change as well. And change is not easy, it's uncomfortable. But oftentimes people will stay in that old way because even though it's unhealthy, even though it's non productive, it's comfortable, right? And I have, been a victim of my own old habits and old ways, but it's taken the culture and the collective, right? And it's hard to leave. Old
Yeah,
habits, die hard, right? And it's hard to get out of that pattern, and we want to keep a clean house, right? Because that energy internally is going to be expressed externally, right? In projects, clients, our team, net new talent that we bring in, be it whatever, it will translate. It's like a ripple; it'll ripple
mhm,
out. And if the culture is chaotic inside, it will show externally, and people pick up on that in that work, in the team, and
100%.
eventually to the client, right?
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, there is I change is hard.
Yeah.
Being a leader is not easy. I mean, and having the ability to know that, like, at the end of the day, people are looking at you, the team is looking at you, and you having the ability to change also gives them kind of a cue of like, okay, if my leader can change and can improve and encourages that, then I think we are setting ourselves up for success. There's
Hmm.
no point in demanding the team to change or adopt something when we as leaders can't do it and aren't open to change. So I think
Hmm.
that's incredibly important, is just making sure that, like, that openness to change is seen from us, and hopefully, gets reflected within the team.
Hmm. I love that. I love Mel Robbins and I listen to her
Yeah,
stuff all the time, but
yeah.
I forget which episode it was, and I'm gonna paraphrase it terribly. But there was this element of if you want to inspire change in someone else, the best way to do that is to be the best version of yourself, right?
Mhm.
And the energy it creates. And I think culturally, the same exact thing. If you bring someone into a healthy environment, the environment will help change them too, right? Because it is a place of trust. It is a place of safety, even if it feels weird or different to them. That environment can have a huge impact, right, on the team. The culture can be the changing agent rather
Yes.
than us. I have a hard enough changing my own mind,
Yeah,
much less.
yeah,
So I think the focus isn't like how can we change this person. It's how can we create such an incredible safe environment that's productive where people feel seen and heard, and knowing that the culture is what's going to ultimately create really great talent and trust, right? You're in this really unique, interesting position as the ACD, the associate creative director, where you're managing clients, you're managing the team at the same time. And I would love for you to just kind of break down what that tension feels like on a day-to-day
mhm.
basis. And what are the things that you had to let go of to really step into this new place of authority and place to help lead the team?
Good question. I think, so I'm new to the role, uh, just this year, but it's been like a balancing act. On one side, I'm absorbing the pressure from clients and from timelines and making sure everything is moving and flowing. But on the other side, I'm also feeling like, okay, there's a team that is, and there's a certain expectation where I want to make sure that I'm checking in,
Mm,
asking where they need support,
sure.
and making sure that, like, everything is is smooth and running smoothly with the team. I think the most important part of, the role is just, showing that I have their backs, not just, "Oh, I have your back, and and that's it,"
Yeah.
or "My door is always open." No,
Yeah.
like, actually practicing it,
Mm,
and getting and making sure that this is, uh, that when things get, heavy and the pressure is real, I'm asking truly, like, "How do I support you?
mm,
How can we alleviate any of this stress and help you get where you need to get all the materials that you need, and questions answered?" And
mm,
so, um I think a lot of the times is nobody is carrying this alone. We're not an
mm,
island. This is not how we work here.
mm,
We're constantly looking to each other for support, and that includes, hoping that they come to me for support too. Um, I think making sure that when it comes to client tension, timeline tensions, all that, like, um, pushing for clarity,
Mm,
making sure that can we give the creatives the space and the time to work on what they need to work on, but also, like, work on what they enjoy working on too.
sure.
Um, so yeah, I think at the end of the day, when things get incredibly stressful, to take a break and making sure that we're checking in and seeing how we can help.
I love that. Well, I think action needs to follow feedback, right?
Yeah.
Or, compliments or things of that nature. A mentor a long time ago, said, be careful not to desensitize like a good compliment, right? Like I remember at the time, rock star was like the word everyone, you're such a rock star. And it's like after a while, that can become desensitizing, or on the opposite of like, I know it's just a hard time we need to power through. But if you just keep hearing that over and over and over again, one of the things I think you do really well is you follow up, right? There's action associated with your specific message to the team, right? And I've seen you going above, okay, let's jump on a call together. Tell me what's going on. How can we figure this out? How can we do it together? Because
Mhm.
I often think, it's really sometimes it's really easy to show up for someone else. It's especially for me, it's really easy to do something for someone else. It's really hard for me to do something for myself. And
Mm.
so as a leader, modeling what it means to ask for help ourselves, it oftentimes is a part of that culture. You're establishing the leadership of that. And I think you do a really great job of showing up for others, the action intent of that, but also asking for help too. Right.
Yeah.
That's a really, really, to me, that's a sign of maturity. So what does it look like to develop a culture of quote unquote helpers or collaborators, as we call them? What does that look like in practice at Red Door?
So, yeah, I think we're slowly develop. I mean, it's in our name, Red Door Collaborative. But every Monday, we do a full meeting with all of the creatives. The whole team comes together. We go and we talk through projects, obstacles, where we're stuck at, and we also give kudos. Um, so within what happens in that room is that people step in. And when people feel like, oh, I'm stuck right here, they're saying, oh, you know what? I worked on something like that previously. I can help you with that. Uh, they're so no, they're without even being asked, people want to help the
Hmm,
other
hmm.
folks, even if it's not something that uh oh, I don't want to touch that. That's not my work. Nobody is siloed here. And that's not by accident. We actually built something where we're encouraging being helpful. We're encouraging this collaboration. And from a leadership standpoint, we celebrate it. We celebrate the fact that people want to help. I mean, I'll give you a real example. So recently we were down a few members and just unexpectedly, and it wasn't the best timing. Things were due. Things were pretty tight. Um,
It was the worst timing, let's be honest.
you know, it was so bad. Um, but people came together.
Mm,
People came and said, "You know what? I'll cover for that." Nobody had to, like, specifically be all like, "Oh, like, I'm gonna assign you this, and this is how it is." Like, they all stepped up and they covered for each other,
mm,
and I feel like that's when the culture is showing up for itself.
mm,
People want to, be involved, but also understand that, like, at the end of the day, they are leaders in their own space,
mm,
and I I think that, when we give people the time and the space to be involved, to be leaders, to own something, they'll take it up, and I appreciate the team and their contributions and just being able to know when to step in and then when to help and being leaders themselves.
hmm. How much of the team's dynamic do you think is directly a reflection of leadership?
I mean, sometimes, like, I do think that, like, if there is chaos on the team, um, I I do look at myself and be all like, "Oh, did I cause that chaos? Did I do something?" And not to be, like,
Yeah.
like, myself up, or just to be honest, like, like we mentioned earlier, like, I need to also, from a leadership standpoint,
Mm,
ask for help. I
mm.
know that it's incredibly vulnerable to be all like, "Oh, I'm supposed to be a leader. I'm supposed to have it all and be able to do it all." But, like, I definitely ask for help, and I have noticed that when the team sees me overwhelmed and stressed, they are looking also at me and be like, "How can I help you?" And I
Sure,
think it's amazing. I think it's
sure.
amazing that they are doing what they can, even in the smallest ways of contributing and helping me.
Sure, sure, absolutely. And also the element of, within boundaries of professional and personal, but sometimes there are stressors in our personal life that affect our professional life, right?
Yes,
And having
yes.
the time and space to be able to work through that or even recognize that and show up, I think that's huge. And when I think about leadership, and the values associated with that, when a leader measures value by individual sacrifice, I observe this in other agencies. People
Mhm.
compete for the credit and the attention, right?
Yes. Oh.
And that to me, that's a toxic culture of like, look what
Mhm.
I did, stepping over someone to receive the credit, right? Rather than when a leader says the collective effort is what matters in this organization. And I've noticed we've really kind of reinforced that over and over again. Hey, collaborative is in the name. That's who we are. Show up, be inquisitive, be curious. And even those stand-ups, as you mentioned, is a great example of the team as a whole. There's so many different projects going on. Being able to offer insight and not be in that bubble, and which is incredibly valuable to them,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And so I think that really matters, when people start showing up for each other
Mhm.
instead of their individual efforts, right?
Yes.
And I use this sports analogy all the time, but a kid is going to compete to please his coach if that's the culture that's formed, even if it's unhealthy, right?
Mhm.
Versus a coach defining that it is a team sport and what's valuable is showing up for the team. The team values
Yes,
shape
yes.
everything. And I have 3 kids, they're all in sports. I have 2 boys that play baseball. I played baseball, and we're building confidence and we're building culture. Like those are the 2 things that we're doing all the time, and those things shape everything that we do. I know we read books, there's tons of books about it, there's tons of things, and it just sounds like this arbitrary thing, but culture really is the connective tissue and thread that holds things together or rip it apart, right? And
Yeah.
so the culture cannot be driven by a competitive landscape of individual efforts. It's a collaborative, supportive team that shows up for each other. And when you give people an opportunity in that space, they will show up. And that
Mhm,
example that you use is perfect because you didn't have to rally anybody. They
mhm.
showed up on their own,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I do think that, like, giving people the autonomy and the responsibility to own something, that is the best teacher in culture itself.
Huh. I
Culture
agree.
does show up,
Agree.
and I've seen it numerous times without me saying, "Hey, our culture is like this. This is how we do things." Like,
Mm,
they the creative team and folks on the team are doing it themselves, and it's amazing. I see it every day. Like, they know how, we function in Red Door, and they're like,
mm.
"You know what? Let me step in. Let me step up."
I love that. I love that. And the environment is what makes that possible, right?
Mhm.
And where people genuinely feel safe. Again, Jerome talked a lot about that. The safety that's cultivated over time, right? Or the lack thereof. It has an effect, cause and
Yeah,
effect, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
so let's double down on that. I would love to talk about what it actually takes to build that, because it's not like we build it and we're just it's a constant building, right?
Yes,
Because we change. I'm a different person now than I was 5 years ago, you as well, right?
yes,
And so
yes.
as leaders, we have to be open to change, and building new culture is something we're currently doing all the time. And
Mhm.
we're asking questions, we're staying curious. What does psychological safety actually look like in a creative process, specifically to you and the team?
Yeah, I mean, so I try to create safe spaces especially when it comes to brainstorming or mood boarding, that's a core of like what we do as creatives. Like we are constantly ideating.
Mm.
So before every session, I'm letting them know, like, no idea is a bad idea. Your voice matters. This is a safe space. I think pitching an idea is incredibly vulnerable. What
Yeah,
if
it
it's a
is.
bad idea and everyone's like, ugh, what are you doing? We don't do that here.
It's
We
true.
don't do
It's
that.
true. Yes.
We make sure that like your voice is important, or else people stop contributing, people stop
Yeah,
talking, people stop
it's true.
speaking. And so I'm always constantly making sure to stay curious,
Mm,
ask questions, especially in those ideating sessions, and
sure.
like just be genuinely open to where these ideas go, where the creatives go, and not have to dictate to them, this is the path forward and we're locked down. So I think those are where, in terms of the creative process, keep making sure that the creatives are in a safe space and having the ability just to be creative in those spaces.
I love that. I think you honor the creative as well in that because creativity is really vulnerable. It's
Yeah.
really
Oh,
vulnerable. And you and I have talked about that over time is you kind of have to build up some calluses around not being offended to be unoffendable.
yes.
Because there are some clients that don't really have tact for telling you how they feel.
Oh my god.
And but if you could be unoffendable and be curious and show up,
Mhm.
I think that's huge. And even within the team, and I think you've done a great job of that. What happens when people don't feel safe in a creative environment? And I'm sure you've witnessed that and seen it and been
Yeah.
part of it.
I mean, I've witnessed it throughout my career. Like, if people don't feel safe, I mean, they stop speaking, they stop stating ideas, they
Mm,
stop, they come in quietly, they don't want to be
mm.
noticed, and then
Suffer
they
in
stop,
silence.
yeah, they stop bringing value and contributing, and they're creatives. That this is where the best skills are coming out, and
Mm,
when I so my approach with that is just making sure that I'm seeing them, and also I'm listening and understanding and trying
sure.
to learn how do we bring the best out of them? What and
Mm,
learning what, value each one can bring either to the project, either to their own skill set, and where they feel, they best function. I 100% believe that, like, building the team's mental and emotional resilience is incredibly important.
mm,
Resiliency, like you said, being unoffendable.
mm.
Resiliency, within an agency space is leaning on each other, the safety of the team, but also like the ability to take criticism and be all like, you know what, that's not personal. That's them. That's on them. So um I mean, from your perspective, like how do you how would you handle these these conversations, harder conversations,
Mm.
especially and ensure that the team feels safe when you have these conversations with them?
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. I think one of the things Jerome said last time that really hit me hard as well was, is it is it harmful, right?
Mhm.
Or is it hard sort of thing, right?
Yes.
And I think there's a way over time of even our approach and how we do that and having healthy discussions. And to me, having healthy discussions is really learning how to manage conflict. Conflict is inevitable in any relationship. Name the closest relationships, personally, professionally, that you have, and I'm pretty sure they are not devoid of conflict, right? But with healthy discord, it can build intimacy and trust, right? And I think people want to feel connected and they want to speak their mind. And oftentimes we bring a lot of baggage from past things, right? And so our goal as leaders is how do we navigate that with them and not put them in a fight or flight mode. I think it takes time. I think it's
Mhm.
the culture, the power of the tribe, if you will. But we're building relationships of trust, and that creates the container so that when we have hard things happen, we can navigate them together
Yeah.
and not suffer in silence, right? Creatives are incredibly empathic people. I am as well. I think a part of even just learning in my 20s was like, maybe I don't feel that way. Maybe I'm just picking up on how that other person feels, right? It's like
Yeah.
if that person's nervous, I'm probably gonna be nervous. So a lot of it is learning how to lead myself, and creatives need to learn to be unoffendable, right?
Mhm.
Again, we navigate the environment of what's like hard and what's harmful, right? And so if the feedback is hard, teaching them how to not take that so personally, but to
Okay.
know that that creativity is an extension of who they are. If there have been times where some of that feedback has been harmful, and I think that's where leadership steps in a healthy way, that builds trust by showing that person that we don't accept that behavior,
Mhm.
right? And that we are here to grow. And that is super, super helpful. But often, to me, that's a very minuscule percentage. Oftentimes, it's feedback that's hard. And as creatives, learning how to be unoffendable, and as leaders too, right?
Mhm.
As a leader, leadership can be a lonely place because you
Yeah.
hear things that can be hard to intake, but you know that if you stay curious and you stay grounded, that that person had to be courageous to share that with you. So I want to take it seriously, right?
Yeah.
And not take it personally. But leaders have to model that first. I'll say that
Mhm.
again. Leaders have to model that first. If I want an unoffendable team, I have to be unoffendable, and that is really hard. And if a leader can't receive feedback and apply change, that's going to show. It's going to show in the team, it's going to show in the culture, and it's a two-way street that
Yeah.
reinforces safety or destroys it. And negative feedback is a creative resilience opportunity. It's not
Yeah.
about getting hurt, but it's about problem solving and how to be a better creative and a better leader over time, right? So I'm curious, what's something about how you lead that you've had to actively work on in your leadership style?
Honestly, also being unoffendable. Sometimes it does hurt. Sometimes they're like,
Mhm,
"I don't like
mhm.
that." And I'm like,
That's
"Oh."
honest. That's honest. Yes, sometimes it sucks and it
I was
hurts
like,
and it's
"Ooh, that
uncomfortable.
hurt."
Yes,
And the ability to let go,
yes.
and that's currently what I'm working on too.
Mm,
It's like I've been in all the spaces and I have an incredibly high bar, for myself, for the work, for the
same.
team, and
Yeah,
it's hard because you want to ensure that, like, that bar is kept. You wanna stay
yeah,
close to everything,
yeah.
but I started to realize that, like, when I'm holding tight to something and I want to stay in that space, I'm also taking away from the people around me. I'm taking
Mm,
away their ownership over this
mm,
and my ability to do my own work and grow in my own spaces and being a leader, in that. So it's not necessarily about protecting the work, but making sure that I'm not getting in the way of it. So I'm still working towards that, and working on, 100%. I fully trust the team, and I fully believe that the team knows the bar and what they can do and their abilities and what they strive for. So once again, back to the culture conversation of like they know the bar, they know what we can do. So I think my job is to give them the space to get there, and also if they need me, they can ask, but I don't
mm.
have to stand over their shoulder and be like, "What are you doing over there?"
Sure,
And
sure.
genuinely just giving time back to folks, and allowing them to truly like own it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love that. And in that ownership comes an element of having to work on things in and of yourself, right? I know I asked
Yeah.
you what are
Yeah.
some of the things
What
that
have
you've had to
you
work on.
Yeah, what have
Oh
you
gosh.
worked on, Chris?
Oh man. The list continues to grow. Um, I think oftentimes, and my wife Jenny, which is my other partner in crime, my better half, is so good at this with our kids, with relationships, even in work
Yeah,
environments. But this element of like we treat others the way we treat ourselves, right? And leaders have to model that change for themselves. And if you want to cultivate good leaders, you need to lead yourself. And so there's a lot of that. I mean, I go to therapy. I've had to unlearn a lot of things. I seek mentorship and counsel. I think a lot of it is curiosity, but seeking those things out. My wife and I, Jenny and I, often talk about people that when you're around and they make you just want to be better people. We call those expanders, right?
yeah,
They're people
yeah,
that you want to be around, but change requires reinforcement. And even if the old way is unhealthy, it's easy to fall into that old path because it feels comfortable. And it's hard to leave that, and that's true for leaders too. If there's a managerial style that you learn that wasn't necessarily healthy, you have to look at what is the fruit of that over time. Are you
Mhm,
building up people? Are you ripping them down? Are you building yourself up? Or are you ripping yourself down, right?
mhm.
And what's helped, again, is mentorships, books, podcasts, all of these things of how can I become better? If I could lead myself really well, and be connected with myself and be in tune with what are the things that I need to feel safe,
Yeah,
I'm probably going to be more empathic to those around me, right? And so those investments are very, very, very important. We are in a hustle culture that's constantly telling you, I don't know about you, but sometimes I have to just get off social media because I just feel like I'm behind,
100%.
right?
Oh
And
gosh.
I should be
Mhm.
sipping a Mai Tai in Bali, right?
Yeah,
Having AI
yeah.
agents do everything for me. That's
Mhm,
not
mhm.
a reality, right?
Right.
Good things take effort and they take
Mhm.
time. And that effort and time is the best investment that you can make is
Yeah,
in yourself. It's in yourself, your health, your emotional health, who you are as a person and as a leader. And we're using leadership from a top structure, but this element of leadership truly comes from the space of cleaning your own house,
yeah,
leading yourself through those, as Brian would say, those places and spaces, right? So you've done all this work on the culture and on the
mhm.
team and on yourself. How do you actually know, Naj, for you? Because I have my own opinions on this, but
Yeah,
how do you
yeah.
know? How do you see and recognize that it's landing with your team, with your people?
I think when I see them actually doing and saying things out loud,
Mm,
that is very much within the culture of Red Door,
mm,
and they're like when I see them like, "Oh, let me help you with that." I'm fully aware of like, "Oh, this is working. This is
uh,
something." They are supporting each other without me saying, "Hey, go support each other." They are embracing that we want to share and produce the best work
mm,
out there, and they're making intentional choices of like, "You know what? Yeah, the client said this,
mm,
but you know what could be better if we do this and this?" And they're
sure.
they're they're in a safe space of, like, recognizing that we can always make things better. We can always
Yeah.
improve, and,
Yes.
and I do think they're all, in that Jerome conversation of, like, they're all becoming whole and they're all growing, and it's
Yeah.
kind of amazing to see.
Yeah, I agree. And I've noticed that curiosity. In my experience, creatives are normally curious, but
Mhm.
as you learn to become less offendable, you're going to be able to use your voice with more confidence and challenge things,
Yeah,
and not take that challenge as a personal attack, but rather a how are we making this better? That's what we want. We want a culture of I don't want to just give a client what the client wants. I want to be able to look at that and have the team look at it and bring things that they never even thought of before. You don't know
yeah,
what you don't know, right? And so
exactly.
what do you think that you're doing, that we're doing as an organization from other agencies? And how are you seeing some of those things kind of affect the team?
Um, honestly, like, we're a creative team, but we're also delivering on all the projects all the time, and sometimes I have ideas, sometimes you have ideas. The people having the ability to push back on either of us, I think,
That's good.
including mine, including yours,
Yeah.
that's I feel like a real sign of safety. They are put in a place where they're like, you know, yeah, Naj, you said this, but what about this? Like,
Mhm.
and nobody is like waiting to be told what to do. They're proactive about it. They initiate, and if something goes wrong, they're not going to be quiet about it. They're not going to be scared about it, and they're not going to bury it.
Mm,
They are saying it out loud, like, "Hey, something happened here. We need to figure out a solution together." I do think when an environment is unsafe, when the agency culture is full of chaos,
sure.
people don't speak, and
That's
they feel like they have to hide all their mistakes. They're too scared to speak up, and that affects culture, that
true.
affects teams, that affects the work.
Sure, sure. And that's one of the things I appreciate about you, Naj. I think you absolutely are a leader that puts these things into practice, right? And I think the entire team would, even the clients that you worked with, I think could recognize it as well. And for context, we work with a lot of tech companies, right? And AI is the hot topic right now. It's everywhere, right? Especially within the creative world. And there's a lot of fear and uncertainty and unease, right? And I really love how you've helped our team navigate that. Can you talk a little bit about how we as an agency are looking at AI, things like AI, and how we're asking our team to embrace it and not be afraid of it? Because we typically fear what we don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna admit, Chris, I don't love the thought of AI taking over creatives. I
True.
don't love the fact that,
Yeah.
you know, there are tech companies who are like, "Oh, my AI can create all these amazing
Sure.
things,"
Sure.
and I'm having to sit in these conversations, with creatives going, "What? What? This is created by AI?" I think something different that we're doing here at Red Door is that the fact that for the past several months, we've been holding these roundtables specifically on AI. I admit that we do share a lot of grievances and rant sessions a little bit on AI. I mean, it's true. The fear is very, very real. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a threat to their work, to their
Mhm.
creativity. But at Red Door, specifically on AI, we take a very human first approach to AI. Like, I feel like with these roundtables, they're incredibly important as it encourages the team to look at AI not just as a threat, but as an actual tool. Obviously, it's not gonna solve all of our problems, it's not gonna
Sure.
solve every single one of the creatives' needs and design needs, but we're looking at it
Mm.
in a way that how do we improve our creative process? How do we improve how our approach to things with the use of AI? And I think that's something that during these conversations, we're talking about tools and tips, relevant like updates that or things that we've been hearing on AI that could help navigate
Sure.
this fear, but
Sure.
also understand that, like, these are tools. It's okay. We
Yeah.
have lots of tools as a creative,
Mhm.
um, versus, having so now I feel like the conversations are more like, "What have we explored with AI lately or recently?" Versus, "I don't wanna touch AI. Please don't let's, like, cover your ears and let's not do it."
Sure.
Um, and the creatives have been really, really open to it. Obviously, there's still a little, uneasiness about it, but I think, in terms of exploration, it's still a big part of our conversation.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
and I have a question for you.
Mhm.
How like, from your perspective, how did you feel like as you've been building this agency, when was your moment where you were like, "Yes, we finally built something here at Red Door"? What was that? How did that feel? And like, when was that first time that you just thought, like, "Yes, this is Red
Yeah.
Door"? Yeah.
That's a good question. I mean, in the most simplistic terms of this whole conversation is I started watching the culture show up for itself, right? When
Yeah.
you build anything, you're the brand in the beginning. And I think the hardest thing to do and the most pivotal thing you have to do is you have to allow the company to become the brand over time, right? And kind of back out. And, I think a lot of people confuse brand and marketing. Brand should make you feel something, marketing should cause you to do something. And there was an element of relationship of Chris being the brand that I was able to connect with people and make them feel good about that approach and what we're doing. But to be able to cultivate other leaders and have that be an extension to where now I know I don't have to be in that room and people are going to show up as Red Door. They're going to show
Yeah.
up for each other. They're going to show up for the clients and they know who this organization is. And ultimately, we're not perfect. And again, people change, organizations change. But my hope is that change is evolving in a good way over time and that the things that we're investing in are returning really, really well. So to me, it was the culture um, that I really started to see. Um, if someone's listening to this, Naj, because I'm really thinking about this, and they're
Mhm.
stuck in a chaotic
Ooh,
environment. If they're
yeah.
stuck in a culture, a company, a role, maybe they're trying to build something on their own and they can't get traction. What's the one thing they could do this week to feel as if they're starting to to have some acceleration, some movement, some momentum?
I think it's incredibly important to advocate for your team as a leader, advocate for your teammates as your a fellow colleague, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's not the easiest thing to do. I think that's a great starting point. Obviously, you can't fix everything overnight. You can't change an entire agency culture in one instance.
Sure.
But if you start looking at the people around you and, like I mentioned before, and telling them, I see you, I'm going to fight for you, your voice matters here, that changes how people show up. And how people show up changes at the end of the day, the work and the culture.
Sure.
Um, the environment is not necessarily like something that is fixed, but it can be built, it can be changed. And having people who care enough to do
Mm,
something different, to be to change and do something different. So, I if someone is in a chaotic environment, themselves, I think just starting with yourself,
mm,
but also thinking about being the person that is wanting to build something better.
mm.
Um, Uh, I know this is closer to the end of the conversation, but is there anything in agency life that still excites you even after everything? What do you think makes it worth it?
Oh man, that's a good question. I think when I first started this agency, it's like I had grandiose dreams. I envisioned all the different, brand marks and icons of the brands we're working with and the kind of projects that we were doing. And I/we have been able to be a part of and do a lot of things. But honestly, the thing that keeps waking me up in the morning is the people. We spend so much of our life working. And so I want to enjoy my job. I want to enjoy the people that I work with. I want to enjoy the team. And I want to know that we're all endeavoring towards a commonality of wanting to improve and wanting to grow. Creativity is incredibly rewarding. It can be really, really challenging too, because
Mhm,
it challenges your own personal identity, right? But I think when it's built right with the right intention and the right people at the center, the culture is what helps Endeavor to do the work. And that's the thing that helps me show up every single day. And there's nothing quite like it. I want to build things that last, that outlast me. And watching things come to life, watching them become real, and watching the teams celebrate each other, not their own individual
mhm.
contributions, but
Yeah.
to say, hey, did you see how that person showed up? Did you see what Joy did? Did you see what Nathan did? Did you see what Justine did? Joe, and anyone, Tom? It's incredible to watch other people show up for each other, right? It really is. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Marketing is essentially connecting with people and causing momentum and movement, right?
Mhm.
And so I just I love what we're creating. And when
Same.
people genuinely show up for other people with nothing to gain, but just with the element to give, to me that is the ultimate form of what it means to be human, right? And so I think that's rare. I think it's worth protecting. I think it's worth investing in. And I think again, leadership starts with you. How are you leading yourself? And even if you're a business of one, you're still going to need a team of people. You might have contractors and partners and X, Y, and Z. How are you showing up for yourself and leading yourself? And how are you building a culture and a brand that's going to return? I think that's really, really important. So, Naj, I just thank you so much for your insight, your vulnerability in your past, even things with Red Door. I really, really deeply appreciate the professional relationship that you and I have. I deeply trust you. I think you're a wonderful person, one, and secondarily, an incredible professional, and you make this organization better. So, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the space, and thank you for allowing me into your world and giving me the opportunity to build an amazing culture with you.
Well, thank you for walking through the door. I appreciate it. So, um, again, thanks for being here. If you're listening to this and it landed well with you, I just encourage you to share this with someone. And if you're building something, if you see someone endeavoring to build something, share this. Thank you for being an open door, and we'll see you next time.